Well, Daily Wire, it seems you've done it again with notorious anti-Mormon, Book of Mormon burning Catholic apologist, host of Pints with Aquinas on the Daily Wire platform, Matt Fradd, just released a 90-minute expose on what Mormons actually believe, entitled Why Mormonism Denies God's Existence, calling us atheists. So if you're one of the thousands of Latter-day Saints that are giving money to the Daily Wire monthly so that they can produce anti-Mormon content like this, you're probably going to want to watch this episode. I'm super excited for it. My name is Jackson Wayne Paul, and welcome to Latter-day Saints.
What power shall stay the heavens from pouring down knowledge from heaven upon the heads of the Latter-day Saints?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show today. Super excited to get into this because it goes back to the origin of why we started Latter-day Saints. Brando, do you remember that first episode?
I remember the first episode we recorded that has never been released, but I remember the true first episode that we released a few months ago.
This is technically today episode number 80, but there was one time where I said it was the 10th episode. It was actually the 11th, so then we made episode 1 titled episode 0, if you go back and look.
It was all for aesthetics. So it's episode 79 today.
Exactly. So if you go back to episode 0, I share with you the reason why I wanted to start Latter-day Saints, right? Over on my deployment overseas, I would listen to I was super hyper-focused on geopolitics and current events and things happening in the world. And so I would listen to a ton of different daily show hosts. And there was a couple things that happened in the Latter-day Saint sphere that you would either have the host say something on the show, letting you know that they too thought that we were wrong and that we either worship demons or we were going to hell, or you have and then what happened was one of the executive producers at the Daily Wire, Cabot Phillips, tweeted out saying that, basically Mormons are going to hell and, parroting the same anti-Mormon tropes that we've heard for hundreds of years now. And it would just frustrate me because I'm listening to these people, I'm getting attached to them, I like their ideas, and then they say something that directly not only just goes against my kind of biggest thing about my worldview, but that villainizes it almost to a point that I am bad. You know what I'm saying? It would just bug me.
Yeah, and I think it was actually really depressing to see an uptick of that after the Michigan shooting at our church, that we saw a lot of people coming on these daily shows, saying shootings are bad, right? And no one should ever have to be killed for their beliefs. But also, what Mormons believe are sending them to hell.
Exactly.
And so it was just sad to see an uptick of that. I think Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire handled that specifically really well. I think he is a good example to follow when talking about the church, but as we're going to see, not everyone there is on the same page about how to talk about us.
Exactly. And I'm not saying, look, I'm not open to criticism at all, whatever. Go ahead. What bugs the beans out of me, okay, is when people resort to talking about us instead of to us, right? And for hundreds of years, I think we all as Latter-day Saints have been so bothered by this because a lot of times our beliefs are sensationalized, caricaturized, or displayed in a way that, has kernels of truth, but ultimately is misrepresented to a point that it seems so absurd and antithetical to Christianity. And so I'm like, we need to start a daily news and pop culture commentary show made by Latter-day Saints for Latter-day Saints so that you can come here and not only hear from, someone that's a member of the church, our perspective, right? But that you can know that ultimately you're not going to find out that the show is either hosted or produced by people that don't think you worship Jesus Christ and that you are going to burn in hell forever. Okay? So that's the place that we're trying to create here on Latter-day Saints. We're not official representatives of the church, but we're doing our best. Good to go? And so then we have a guy by the name of Matt Fradd who hosts a show called Pints with Aquinas. And if you don't if that name sounds familiar, it might be because you saw him saying on his show that he, if he saw a Book of Mormon, that he would go throw it in a fire and burn it. Good to go. And
Never seen that before.
You haven't seen that?
No, I'm saying.
Oh,
like,
we showed a video. Yeah, we showed a video on this channel of someone doing exactly that, burning a Book of Mormon and lighting a cigar with it. Super giga chat of him. And so he hosts this show called Pints with Aquinas that got picked up by the Daily Wire. And to further clarify kind of like his position in that regard of burning Book of Mormons, he actually further clarified this in an interview that he did with the same guy that he just barely interviewed, Joe Heschmeyer. If you want to click this, the other link there, Brando. Yeah, so this is Matt Fradd, okay? This is his position on, if you're a Latter-day Saint, your religion and your holy book, the Book of Mormon.
Apologetics. And I gave the example that a lot of times we're not very charitable with the Mormons. You know, people are often mocking and dismissive, and it's not helpful.
They might talk about burning a LDS book.
Yes, exactly.
Let me clarify that. I wasn't saying you should go to a Mormon and steal their books and set them on fire. But it seems to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that if something is clearly a false revelation of Jesus Christ, then it deserves to be done away with. And by that, I'm not yet at the point where I'm saying we steal them from people's houses and burn them. But in the same way, you might get like a copy of the sort of Jehovah's Witness translation. What's that called? The New World Translation?
Yeah.
Where it clearly has errors in it in John's Gospel. Like actually setting fire to a Bible is the appropriate way to do away with the Bible, by the way, or to bury it. So if I had an extra copy of Mormon at home, I'd absolutely have no problem burning it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Free to,
There we go. So he clarifies that. He's like, look, I want to make this clear. Yes, if I had a copy of the Book of Mormon, I would burn it. So that's essentially what he's saying there. So thank you, Matt.
Let's take a breath of relief, because he said he's not yet to the point where he would break into people's houses and steal their Books of Mormon and burn them.
Exactly.
So let's just like be really relieved and grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's next year's edition.
Yes.
Exactly.
We have time to prepare for the pitchforks and torches.
Exactly.
And burning and tarring and feathering.
Yes, Brando, I love you, dude. This is why you're here, bro. So that's a little bit into the worldview of Matt Fradd when it comes to his position on the Latter-day Saints and our religion and the Book of Mormon, right? He said, and the way he refers to it, you just know he hasn't read it. I'm not going to say that, but I mean, by the way people talk about the Book of Mormon, I can tell whether they've seriously sat down, gone through its pages, and read the Book of Mormon, right?
He infantilizes it. He makes it seem like, oh,
Book of
clearly,
the Mormons, LDS book.
Yeah, clearly this is a false gospel. And okay, but why? Like, go deeper into that. And they just like to just chalk it off as that, because that's the buzzword. But that is the intellectually dishonest argument that the critics have posed. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And so then you have this Matt Fradd. He recently gets picked up by the Daily Wire. And actually, shout out to our boy Kai Schwemmer, because he recently called me and he's like, yo, I got the underground skinny that on the Daily Wire, they're going to be releasing like a 2-hour thing, anti-Mormon video. And I'm like, no shot, bro. And he's like, it's happening, bro. And so then yesterday, okay, Matt Fradd on the Daily Wire, his show Pints with Aquinas, he releases this video entitled, if you want to go to that screenshot, Brando. They released this episode and the title of it is Why Mormonism Denies God's Existence. Okay. Why Mormonism Denies God's Existence. And then the YouTube version got updated to say, does Mormonism deny God's existence? Question mark. Okay. So a little alteration there.
Respectful.
And then I opened the video up this morning and this is the title that we've now gotten to. The Incoherence of Mormonism with Joe Heschmeyer. Okay. So we're on our third iteration of the title here, and I'll show you why they had that first title, Why Mormonism Denies God's Existence. And they basically posit the argument that we are atheists as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, okay? And so here's the thing. There's a great debunking video that was done last night on the Ward Radio live stream where Jacob Hansen, Jasmine Rapalai, Luke Hansen, and Cardin Ellis go through a bunch of different clips and debunk just the terrible, awful, dishonest, disingenuous way that Joe Heschmeyer and Matt Fradd, well, mainly Joe Heschmeyer, because Matt Fradd, he's in the position of he's asking Joe what we believe. And I put together a little super clip of him basically asking, what would Jacob Hansen say to that? What would, XYZ say to that? And it just really shows you, if you have all these questions, Matt, why aren't you inviting Jacob Hansen on your show? Why aren't you inviting a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on your show? Ask them these same questions and hear it from the horse's mouth. No, what you do is you invite Joe Heschmeyer on here that obviously he has a heavy bias against our beliefs, and he's going to represent it in a way that's not the absolute, that's not the correct way, right? And so what I would recommend is for a proper debunking on a lot of these terrible ways that he represents our beliefs. We're going to link in the description of the Ward Radio live stream because they did a great job. But I just want to show you this super clip that I put together and after watching this, or as you watch it, think, would it have been more productive for Matt Fradd from the Daily Wire to invite Jacob Hansen and or some other Latter-day Saint on his show to tell him what we believe instead of asking a third party? Ask yourself that question. Brando, roll the clip.
Ask a modern day apologist, they would say we don't have
and you've got people like Blake Ostler who are trying to do things of trying to make a form of
Who's that?
He's a theologian on the LDS side.
Okay.
And he's presenting some stuff that's not mainstream, but is probably becoming bigger. And Jacob Hansen follows him. So you're going to find people like Jacob saying things that I think their parents' generation wouldn't have believed.
I don't think they believe in infallibility at all for anyone.
No, Jacob Hansen in our debate explicitly denied that. So I think these are important things to just know at the outset. There is a line that Flannery O'Connor says in a letter, I believe it was to Dr. Spivey in the mid-50s, where she says, you can know what I believe because I'm a Catholic, but I can't know what you believe as a Protestant unless I ask you. And Mormonism is somewhere in the middle between those two.
Of course. That's why I asked if they believe in the Trinity.
And so I'm a little unqualified to answer that.
So given what you've said about LDS, flex in the joints, how many gods are there? According to the LDS Church, how many gods would Brigham Young say there were? And then how many gods would Jacob Hansen say there are?
I
don't mean gods that we're bound to worship. I mean just gods.
Jacob was asked almost this direct question, because the question he was asked was whether God the Father had a God that he worshipped.
What did he say? I guess what I'm asking is, what does official LDS sources say, even if they're mutable? And then what apologists?
So, to my knowledge.
So if you were to ask a modern day apologist, they would say, how do they talk about it? How do they?
Further revelation.
Further revelation.
And so
would they, I imagine if I was a Mormon, what I would say is, it's not that we didn't want blacks to be priests. It's just that culturally, it wasn't a smart time to have blacks as priests.
No, it's much.
It's worse than that?
Yeah.
Okay. The question is, are Mormons atheists?
Yeah, so that was a very long preamble.
It was a good one. It was a helpful one.
I think we have to distinguish in two ways. Philosophically, yes, they are. And that matters for some important reasons. Capacity.
So if you would ask a modern day apologist.
There we go, Brando.
Where's our cigars, bro?
Yeah, you look at his background, it's just like all cigars and then just bottles of whiskey and all this stuff. It's hilarious. I guess that's just how the Catholics do it, or at least how they did it in Portugal, They'd guzzle beer and then go to church on Easter and Sunday, but shout out to you. Anyways, love the Portuguese, all right? Love the Catholics as well. All right, a couple things to be said about this. If you're going to take the time to go and watch the 2+ hour video, anti-Mormon video that the Daily Wire host, Matt Fradd, posted yesterday, you're going to see the glaring double standard that is put forth, okay? If we were to invite Jacob Hansen on here and then go through the history of the Catholic faith and some of the things that the Catholic popes and priests and bishops have said over the years, you're cooked, bro. You're cooked, okay? And I don't feel the need to do that, to go eye for an eye on you right now. But just recapping this video, how many times, Brando, did he say, no, what would a Mormon apologist say? what did Jacob Hansen say? If you were to ask them, how would they present this? And it's just like, bro, if you have all these questions of how we would respond, why don't you just do the right thing and invite one of us on to explain this to you instead of Joe Heschmeyer that clearly has a vendetta against us?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that we're saying you can't ever talk about our religion and critique our religion without us there. But what we are saying is that have us there at least one time, two times. Have a intellectual conversation with somebody who presents themselves as an intellectual within the church, like Jacob Hansen. I say presents himself, but he really is an incredible intellectual.
Yeah.
Have him on and have a conversation, and then have further conversations with other people about it, even though that might be aggravating because you still don't have the full picture. Have him on at least one flippin' time.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
And you hear those other clips with Joe Heschmeyer responding to him being like, to my knowledge, or, I'm not qualified to give the position on that. It's like, dude, then invite one of us on. And then the last question, are Mormons atheists, right? Meaning not believing in God, essentially.
They got the smoking gun right there. They figured us out.
Yeah. And then Joe Heschmeyer's answer was philosophically, yes. Okay. They are atheists. Mormons are atheists. Now, we've gone from, are Mormons Christian? No, they're not. They're going to burn in hell. They don't worship Jesus Christ too. You know what? Mormons are actually atheists. Mormons actually don't believe in God. And this is their worldview to give a little more context of why they say that, okay, in this clip right here.
So they don't believe in God.
Yeah, they don't. What we mean by God, they would reject as being contrary to Scripture.
But what we mean by God is correct.
Correct.
So they don't believe in God.
And so this
is that what you're saying, Joseph?
It is.
Okay.
So, Joe, they don't interpret the passages in the Bible to then be this extra biblical interpretation of this amorphous, triune idol that has no parts or passions, is unknowable, incomprehensible. Because they don't look at God, our Father, that we were created in his image, like that, like the Catholic view, then they don't believe in God. Therefore, they are atheists, and we're right. Like,
sounds about right to me.
Checks out, bro. And so it's just, it's very frustrating to see this. First he says he's going to burn the Book of Mormon, then Cabot Phillips comes out and says that Mormons are going to hell, and then they post this 90-minute expose, not asking a Latter-day Saint what we believe, but having Joe Heschmeyer come out here and say that we're atheists and misrepresenting our faith in all forms and fashions. Like I said, go watch the link in the description of the World Radio live stream for a bunch of those specific things. But there was one that just... It grinded my gears. So like I said, go to the link in the description to watch the World Radio live stream on a bunch of debunking on clips. But there was two that just really got under my skin, bro. Got under my skin. So let's watch this first one.
Golly, it's like trying to nail Jello to a wall.
I used that exact expression in my debate with Jacob Hansen. And I think LDS listening to this should at least realize how difficult it is for non-LDS to fairly critique the position
when they keep changing,
and when you can find LDS who just say, oh well, we don't think that necessarily happened. But
so here's the thing, I imagine it's extremely hard to fairly present what we believe when you won't even have us on your show to talk to you, to have us explain to you, right? I'm sure that is hard, right? When you have to go through and then you not having the background of being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and knowing what we actually believe, I'm sure it is very hard to give a fair representation of what we believe, right? Oh, it's like nailing a Jello to the wall. Bro, again, if we did a whole thing on things that Catholic popes and priests and bishops have said about, just give me some money and you'll be forgiven for your sins, or they now had to come out, this last pope, and say that we do not see Mary as the co-redemptress, right? Because some other things have been said in the past where clearly it's kind of showing, just as I saw a massive gold statue in Fatima, Portugal, with a bunch of people crawling on their knees around the Mother Mary, that people would see, yeah, they worship Mary. Sometimes even it appears a little bit more than God, okay? If you haven't seen that statue and the pilgrimage that people do, people literally go and walk miles and miles and miles to crawl on their knees and pray to Mother Mary. So if that's not idolatry, help me understand, Catholic, okay? And if you go to the Sick of Joseph YouTube channel, we had some questions about the Catholic beliefs. So what did we do? We invited Father Gabriel on, who is after the Order of the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, right?
Such a cool name.
Yeah, what a beast. He's got a sword and everything. He wears his cloak and everything. And we asked him to his face, help us understand your beliefs, okay? And so, yeah, I'm sure it is difficult when you refuse to have us on your show to actually have us explain our beliefs instead of asking someone who clearly has some misinterpretations about our beliefs, okay? Mm-hmm. All right, and then there's one other clip. If you want to go to that timestamp, it's actually in the link of the video that we have pulled up there, Brando.
But they reject that difference because they feel a closer intimacy, thinking of God as being one of us, and us being one of whatever he is. So he doesn't create you. He gives you a body, but you have a pre-existing intelligence.
Am I as old as God?
There is
my
no
God, lowercase g?
Yeah.
I'm as old as
You're infinitely old.
Right.
You're uncreated.
And that's something Mormons teach today.
It's even a point that they will use against Christians and say, you've got this problem of evil because the creation exists here without its consent. Everyone who's ever created by God did not consent to be created, and so therefore God is morally responsible for the evils in the world. Whereas in Mormonism, God's not morally responsible for the evils in the world because he's just kind of powerless too.
We got to give their God a different name so we know what we're talking about, like Jeff or something.
Odin, or yeah. I mean, because it is much similar to some of the pagan conceptions of God.
Yeah.
Where you have gods that are demiurges or architects.
Tell our viewers what Kolob is.
Okay, pause it.
If it's still taught. And we're
all right, so he goes in and he says, yeah, one of the most glaring things that they have to deal with the conception of God that they have is that he created everything out of nothing. And then he explains there. So they actually use this as an argument against other Christian denominations, saying that there's this problem of evil. And if God created everything out of nothing, then that means he's responsible for the evil. And then Matt, instead of actually dealing with that and giving us a satisfactory answer, they say, tell us about Kolob. All right, so tell me if this makes sense, Brando, okay? So from their version of God, what they believe, right, that he created everything out of nothing, right? They believe that God is all-powerful, all-knowing, right?
Yep.
Knows everything from the beginning to the end, all right? So if he created you, Brandon, out of nothing, not just your body, but your personality, who you are, would he not then know that your personality traits that you have, what decisions those would lead to, and ultimately if they would lead back to heaven or hell?
Seems like the logical conclusion of that.
Yeah, because if he knows everything from the beginning of the end, if I give Brandon this, this personality trait or this proclivity or this type of mindset, then he's going to use it to make this decision that then is going to lead him to hell, right? Because he's all powerful and all knowing. And if he created everything out of nothing, then everyone he creates, he knows exactly what decisions they're going to make with how he creates them and where that's eventually going to lead them, right? And so then you have this problem of evil, right? So if God created everything out of nothing, even Satan, then he intentionally created evil to then basically afflict us here on earth, and we don't actually have free will. And you're like, well, yeah, he gave us this thing called free will. Yeah, he created us, but we have the choice. No, because if he's all powerful and all knowing, then when he created you, if he gave you some arbitrary thing called free will, he knows exactly when he gave you your attributes, how you would use that free will, and ultimately if you would go to heaven or hell. Okay? And I've talked to different Catholics and Protestants in this regard, and no real satisfactory answers. If you go to Hayden Carroll's channel, Let's Talk with Hayden Carroll, he has conversations about this all the time. And guess what? It's a glaring problem because there is no solve. If you have a God that believes that you believe created everything out of nothing. Whereas from the position of the Latter-day Saints, we believe that we have existed eternally just as God. Now, not in the same form or fashion, right? That we are progressing in some sort of fashion, and that we were given our mortal bodies in this opportunity to come here on earth. We believe in the pre-existence that we chose to come here on earth to get a body, learn, progress, and hopefully make the right decisions and come back to God the Father. And that he is going to be all just and all merciful, and give everyone an opportunity to accept the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? But because he didn't create exactly my personality traits and who I am as a person, because I've existed for eternity before this as some form of intelligence, then that means that my makeup is somehow outside of God's direct control, that he didn't create me with certain personality attributes, that he would know how I would use those to make decisions that would either send me to heaven or hell. Hopefully that makes sense, okay? But that's a huge problem that the rest of Christianity has to deal with. And that is really, from the Latter-day Saint position, what we believe is, in my view, the only real solve for evil that doesn't make God some narcissistic, psycho that created a bunch of people to either go to heaven or go to hell for eternity just because, to then worship him forever, or to burn in hell for eternity.
Yeah. Kind of just felt like a stab to the heart when he said we should give God a different name. And it was interesting when he said they believe that God is not, talking about us, God is not morally responsible for evil. So is he insinuating that he is more, what does he mean when he says he is morally responsible for the evil in the world? Because when you frame it that way, that does not sound like a God I would be a huge fan.
Yeah. No, so when he says that, he is reiterating our criticisms of the created everything out of nothing position, right?
So that's not, okay, I see what you're saying.
Because in their position, he is responsible for evil because he created everything out of nothing, meaning he created good and evil. People that are going to choose good things and then make it to heaven, and people that are going to choose bad things and go to hell.
So yeah, how do they reconcile that without the plan of salvation, knowing that there does have to be evil for God's plan, but why? Why does there have to be evil for God's plan? If God created evil, there's got to be a purpose for that. And if there's not a purpose for that, as it seems like they're saying, then he just created evil and it's awful and we're supposed to suffer. Where is the reason for that in their theology?
Yeah.
And I would like to ask one of them.
Yeah. Matt Fradd and Joe Heschmeyer, we'd love to have you on the show to come explain this to us, okay? Because that's why I believe that the LDS position of the view of God is the only one that truly makes sense, right? Because if we existed in the form of intelligences before we came to this earth, then that's the only real reason or way that we would be able to have actual free will and choose between right and wrong. Because though God did create our bodies after his own image, we, as the makeup of who we are, existed eternally before that. Mm-hmm. And so...
Yeah. Before people get in the comments and say, you're just doing the exact same thing that they're doing, you're straw manning the Catholic argument or whatever, Jackson just formally invited Matt Fradd and Joe Heschmeyer, who, obviously have much bigger platforms than us. But the idea is that we are sending a formal invitation, whereas no one in the LDS space is getting that formal information or formal invitation from people like them. So I just want to ask you real quick as we close up this segment, what is your theory as to, or it may not even be a theory, why do you think that these podcast hosts, these commentators, why don't they invite Latter-day Saints on their shows to talk with them about this? Why doesn't Joe Rogan get Jacob Hansen on? Why doesn't Matt Fradd get Jacob Hansen on, or people like that?
It's a great question. One, I hope that after releasing this 90-minute anti-Mormon rant, conversation, critique, when Matt Fradd's, asking Joe Heschmeyer as if he's the authority and how he knows everything about our religion, that he actually will give Jacob Hansen or some other Latter-day Saint that's, able to articulate these beliefs that we actually have on his show, because that would only be fair. One thing, if you look online, if someone goes after the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, guaranteed engagement, right? Because you have us that we're done having uncontested slam dunks, as it were, had on us, okay? So people are going to, from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, going to go in and correct in the comments and, blow up engagement there. And then a bunch of people that think the same as the presenter that's misinterpreting our beliefs, then they're going to be like, yeah, these Mormons, they are crazy. They're going to hell. You're exactly right. So it's guaranteed clicks and engagement, okay? And it's a hot topic, I swear, for it. I mean, a while now, but especially I feel like during the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so guaranteed clicks and engagement. And it's a lot easier to make your audience satisfied if you're honestly, not intentionally, but possibly misrepresenting and caricaturizing and sensationalizing our beliefs to be more crazy than they actually are, right?
Yeah.
It drives more engagement to sensationalize it.
Yeah.
And so also it's the same thing with like Candace Owens and the whole Tyler Boyer thing, right? Candace Owens, from Tyler Boyer's perspective, Candace Owens has never reached out to him personally since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. That's what he told us. Now, if that's a lie, please correct the record. But nothing that she has said has corrected that up until now. And so there's this thing going on in the world that people love talking about others and don't actually talk to people because they're nervous that maybe, I don't know, maybe they're a lot more reasonable than we think, and I could be wrong. And maybe they turn around on me and ask me something that I don't have the answer for. And so it's a lot safer for these people like Matt Fradd to come on and just say he'd burn the Book of Mormon and, just ask someone else and have plausible deniability of like, I didn't say this, but I'm asking Joe Heschmeyer these leading questions. Are Mormons atheists? All this other stuff. And it drives more engagement and solidifies their core audience more in the belief that we are going to hell and we're unreasonable.
Yeah.
That's a long answer for you, Brando.
No, I think it was a good answer. I will say props to Ruslan for
having Jacob Hansen on, bro.
He had Jacob Hansen on. They had a great discussion. And I just think that's a good example to follow for everyone who's going to talk about, listen, you can talk about us, you can critique us, and we may come in and try and debunk you. Also, I think the term should be more like uncontested airballs, because a lot of them are airballs.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But all I'm saying is, like, if you're going to talk about us, have one of us on at least one time. Someone who can give a very solid argument for our position. Someone like Jacob Hansen.
Yeah. So Daily Wire, super cool to see this 90-minute anti-Mormon conversation between known anti-Mormon that advocates for the burning of the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ, with his buddy Joe Heschmeyer. So
maybe cancel your subscriptions. Just kidding.
Honestly, dude.
Just watch Latter-day Saints.
Just watch Latter-day Saints, dude. Just watch Latter-day Saints. Here's the thing, dude. The Daily Wire for a long time now has just been, I got a lot of thoughts on it, bro. Got a lot of thoughts on it, and you may think, well, now's the time to share it, Jackson. But let me gather them a bit. And then if we talk about this more, then I'll share with you. But super frustrating. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, okay? Are you pumped to see this for you Daily Wire subscribers? Were you pumped to see this title, Why Mormonism Denies God's Existence? Are you pumped to see that? Nice. Give them more money. Yeah. Let's give Matt Fradd more money. I love it. I want to give him more money so he can produce more videos like why Mormonism denies God's existence, and then calls us atheists. Yes. Let's give them more money monthly, actually. So maybe that's your answer. Yeah.
I feel like you're sarcastically inciting a boycott that I agree with.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, go ahead. If you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, go ahead, give him more money so he can produce more content that shows you why you're an atheist, Latter-day Saint. Yep, that was sarcastic.
Yeah.
It's kind of. Anyways, moving on to the Zion Zone.
Stop making fun of me.
Every day, what I want to have is at least one segment where we go over things happening specifically in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Latter-day Saint news, right? Because not always is there something happen like David Archuleta, former Latter-day Saint, or something like this that is specific to the Latter-day Saints and really well known in the, media and stuff like that. So if you have a better name for it, Zion Zone, Brando threw that out there.
It is kind of cringe, yeah.
Church News Minute, I don't know. Tell us what you think that the segment should be called. The one with the most likes is going to get a shout out in the next video.
Or we can do a poll with the best names that we see and see what the votes are.
True. So go ahead, whatever you think the segment should be called. Well, pulling up Church Newsroom here, we got a title that says, News for Temples in Brazil, the Philippines, Texas, and South Dakota. It says, Teresina Brazil Temple. The First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has announced that the groundbreaking services for the Teresina Brazil Temple will be held on Saturday, April 18th, 2026. Elder Ciro Schmel,
I don't know.
first counselor in the Brazil area presidency, will preside at the event. So here's a picture, our digital rendering of the Teresina Brazil. If you're a Brazilian, throw a big old B in the chat, okay? Eu amo os brasileiros. But that looks like a beautiful temple.
Yeah, kind of looks like the Mount Temp temple a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I've been able to go to 2 temples in Brazil, the São Paulo, Brazil temple, and then the Recife temple. Both beautiful.
That's awesome.
Beautiful. But if you scroll down here, there's 3 new temples, I believe, that were announced in the Philippines. And it says here, location of 3 temples in the Philippines have also been announced and exterior renderings provided. The Naga Philippines temple will be built on a big old site. There we go. And then it says there are over 880,000 Latter-day Saints living in the Philippines. That is way more than I thought.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Wow. There's a lot of missions there.
Yeah. And with the Alabang Philippines temple dedicated in January 2026, there are now 4 operating temples in the Philippines: Alabang, Cebu, Manila, and Urdaneta. Probably said all those wrong. But it's saying
amazing.
That they have 3 new. So in Santiago, Philippines, and then scroll down a little bit more. So there's the digital rendering of that. And then the Iloilo. Let's see that one. That looks like almost an old Spanish mission church. Looks beautiful.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So. And then we got the Houston, Texas South will be known as the Fort Bend, Texas Temple. So I guess they're doing a little name change there.
Here was the first Philippines temple that I skipped over.
Oh, the Naga one.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the Asian temples have a super cool Asian architecture. Out in the Okinawa one, they have those traditional Japanese tiles. Roofs.
Oh yeah.
Has some elements of that, and it's super
Those are
pretty.
So cool. I wish America looked like that, to be honest.
Honestly, their houses, the roofs alone. And what's cool is if anyone's ever been to Japan, they have these they have like the really old ones. It's like red stone type, but then they have like modern. It looks like. Have you ever seen those like Tesla roofs that each tile is a solar panel?
Oh yeah.
It's pretty epic. And so it looks like that shiny, sleek black material.
Dang, and there's like a dragon head on the end of it or something like
sick,
that.
Dude. So sick.
Let me ask you a question real quick. This is really awesome about the temples being announced. How this is kind of this new direction we're going with temples being announced outside of General Conference with President Oaks. What do you think about that?
Look, I get it because when President Nelson started doing it, I think he was the one that started doing it in conference. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I feel like I remember President Monson doing it near the end of his
tenure,
but I'm not. I can't. That may just be a dream.
Well, remember when he just started doing it, and then people from those places would like start screaming in the conference center, and
it was kind of hype.
Yeah, it was, but I totally understand. It kind of interrupts it a little bit, but it's like, come on. This is something we should be joyous about. New houses of the Lord are being built on the earth and dedicated. This is awesome. Yeah. So, maybe I'm a bit more nuanced than that. Cheering is good. But then they came out and they're like, please be quiet. And then I think that lasted for like 2 conferences. And then after that, people just kept cheering again.
Yeah, you kept hearing it a little.
Yeah. Especially when there was like some in like the Pacific Islands or something. You'd hear like some message like,
yeah.
And so we love those Polynesians. They're so enthusiastic. But no, I can kind of see, maybe why they wouldn't do that, but kind of makes me a little bit sad.
It's a joyous occasion no matter what. And it's not some big event in General Conference now, but I actually find myself, now that I think about it, I find myself thinking that when I watch the next General Conference, I'm going to be totally focused on the present, on the talks that are being said. Because before, I kind of was just waiting until President Nelson would get up there to announce the temples. I was just like, when is he? It's almost the second Sunday session, and he's going to announce the temples. And that's probably a my bad kind of thing. But maybe it'll help people to just focus on the messages that General Conference is giving.
Yeah. And I can see, like, also they've made a couple different announcements outside of General Conference, like the change in age of, young women to be able to go at 18 and stuff. And I remember they made that first age change in General Conference, and then they made like the 2-hour church announcement in General Conference.
And then they just stopped making announcements in General Conference.
Well, because then there was this one that I was on my mission, and I was getting emails too of people who either worked at the church, of like family and friends that I knew. They're like, yo, I have it on good authority, on a good source, that they're going to announce that like coffee is good to go. Like they're adjusting the word of wisdom. And like all these other like that they're going to make it optional to serve a 2-year mission, and all these elders that were just fubekas, basically like lazy.
Yeah, I heard that all the time in my mission.
Yeah, that they were going to give the option for elders to only serve like 19 or 18 months like the sisters, and all these others like, oh, dude, I'm going to go home immediately. And so like there was it left a lot of room for speculation, because General Conference then turned into this thing where like, oh, what's going to be the new big crazy thing announced? And maybe it led to missing the mark a little bit. But anyways, new temples being built all across the world. And I think it's wonderful. And it's great. So there's our Zion Zone Church News Minute.
Zion Zone!
It was way over a minute.
If you want to support the channel, if you want to, well, you don't have to put money into the channel by watching it. But I was going to say, if you want to put your money somewhere else besides the Daily Wire, subscribe to Latter Daily Saints. And we are free to watch. So
exactly. Or if you want to continue to give money to people that think you're going to burn in hell and want to burn your sacred book, the Book of Mormon, and another testament of Jesus Christ, then I guess continue to say subscribe to the Daily Wire and give them money. So anyways, God bless you for being here. And until next time, remember, if you're not looking at the world through a gospel lens, you're only getting half the story. God bless you.